हज़रत उमर रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हु के ज़माने खिलाफत का जिक्र चल रहा था।
His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said, a place called Fahl, a place in Syria, was also conquered during the time of Hazrat Umar, God be pleased with him. Hazrat Umar, God be pleased with him, had instructed that the Muslims should first focus on conquering Damascus, and if they were successful in doing so, then they should make their way to Fahl. Once these lands had been conquered and the Muslims proved victorious over the Romans, Hazrat Umar, God be pleased with him, instructed that the lands be left in the custody of their owners. Only some land would be used for the purpose of building mosques, otherwise the owners would retain their land. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said, Bisan was also conquered during the time of Hazrat Umar, God be pleased with him. After the victory of Fahl, the Muslims encamped outside Bisan. By this time, news of the losses suffered by the Romans at the hand of Muslims had spread. The Muslims lay siege to Bisan for a few days, after which a few people came out to fight, and were defeated. The rest of the people of Bisan agreed to terms of a treaty. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said, Tabariya was also conquered during the time of Hazrat Umar, God be pleased with him. When Tabariya was conquered, they requested to be presented before Shurabil, the same person who led the conquests of Fahl and Bisan, in order to reach an agreement. They agreed upon the same conditions which were settled with the people of Damascus, along with the condition that half of the houses in the cities and villages would be emptied in order for Muslims to inhabit them. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said, Homs was also conquered during the time of Hazrat Umar, God be pleased with him. This was a renowned place in Syria, and held great significance. The people of Homs themselves came forward to battle the Muslims, which resulted in their defeat. The weather was cold at the time, and the Romans believed that the Muslims would not be able to battle for long in an open area. It is recorded that the Romans had leather shoes, yet their feet would freeze, while the Muslims would only have normal shoes at best. Nonetheless, despite the cold, the Muslims remained resolute, and as the cold passed, and the Romans realized that the Muslims could not be defeated, the people of Homs requested for a treaty to be made. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said, Marjuaram was also conquered during the time of Hazrat Umar, God be pleased with him. The Muslims battled despite the cold weather, and many of them nursing wounds. A battle ensued in which the Muslims were victorious, and the only people who remained alive were those who fled. As spoils, Muslims received riding animals, armor and clothes. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said that after the victory of Marjuaram, Hamat was also conquered by the Muslims. The people of Hamat agreed to terms of a treaty. Then the Muslims proceeded to conquer Salamiya. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said. Then the Muslims went on to conquer Lazika. Then the people of Lazika saw the Muslims approaching, they closed off any entrance to their city, and began preparations to fight. The Muslims lay siege to the city. Hazrat Abu Bakr, God be pleased with him, determined that laying siege would take a very long time, and even then victory would not be guaranteed. Therefore, Hazrat Abu Bakr, God be pleased with him, devised a plan, whereby various trenches were dug, which could conceal both a horse and its rider. The next morning, when the people of Lazika could no longer see the Muslims, they became happy and came out, at which point the Muslims were able to enter the city and conquer it. Thus, the people of Lazika entered into a treaty with the Muslims. They were able to retain ownership of their castle, beside which the Muslims would go on to build a mosque. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said. The Muslims then went on to conquer Kinisrin. The people of Kinisrin had encamped outside of their city in order to battle the Muslims. Eventually, the Muslims proved victorious over them, and a treaty was agreed upon. There were some who went into the city, and locked themselves in. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, God be pleased with him, told them that God would either enable the Muslims to reach them, or God would convey them to the Muslims, and that their ploys were futile. Eventually, they realized their fault and surrendered. Because of what had occurred, it was determined that it would only be just to break down their castles. Then, the people of Kinisrin were given the assurance of security, they were able to retain their lands, and only some land was used by the Muslims in order to build mosques. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said. Then there was the conquest at Caesarea. Hazrat Umar, God be pleased with him, sent Yazid bin Abi Sufyan with 17,000 Muslims who lay siege to Caesarea, which at the time was a large city, and was guarded by a large Roman army. The Romans attacked the Muslims, but were unsuccessful and resulted in 80,000 of their soldiers being killed in battle, and including those who fled, this number reached 100,000. Hazrat Ubadah bin Samit, God be pleased with him, a companion who took part in the Battle of Badr, also took part in this battle. He acted with great bravery and encouraged the Muslims, and told them that whenever he led Muslims into battle, they were always victorious. He said that he would remain at the forefront, ready to give up his life if required. As a result, the Muslims fought inspiringly against the Romans and proved victorious. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said that he would continue highlighting incidents from the life of Hazrat Umar, God be pleased with him, in future sermons.